Karibu sana Mheshimiwa Jeremiah KIONI.
Asante sana.
Happy New Year. You haven't been here this year.
It's an opportunity to come again to Spice, and I'm happy and thank God. And Happy New Year to your viewers, and you have many.
Yes.
Yeah, you have many.
Asante sana.
Yes.
Everybody, Happy New Year from Jeremiah KIONI, Secretary General, Jubilee Party.
Yes.
CT, this week, Mheshimiwa,
Yes.
CT is in Morocco.
Kingdom of Morocco.
Kingdom of
The
Morocco.
Kingdom of Morocco.
Don't just go around calling it Morocco.
It's not just Kingdom.
Although it's your neighbor's
Gave
blood.
birth to Sahrawi.
Yes. You are right. The Sahrawi are an integral part. Well, they don't actually think they're an integral part.
Yes.
There were some little issues
Yeah,
of boundaries
they are,
and independence
those
and
ones are still there.
and other things. Now, the government that they have is an interesting one. Let me tell you what it's called. It's called a unitary parliamentary semi-constitutional monarchy.
Unitary.
Parliamentary,
Let me just say it
semi-constitutional.
Yes, yes, slowly.
Unitary parliamentary semi-constitutional monarchy.
Okay.
It's monarchy, okay?
Okay.
But they have parliament
Okay.
and constitution
Halfway.
plus kingdomish. It's there. All right? Because they have a king, Mohammed VI. Then they have a prime minister, Aziz Akanouch. Okay? Then they have a parliament, an upper house, a lower house. So, parliament.
Right.
Interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Do they have a president?
Prime minister.
The head of government is the prime minister.
Prime minister.
The head of state is the king.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why. That's where the semi comes in.
Higher. The proverb?
By all means, trust in Allah. But first, tie your camel.
Jeremiah, what do you make of
But
this
she was
proverb?
staring at me saying, kwani unaongea nini?
It is faith in Allah, but you must, action is important.
It's very important.
Yeah,
Yes.
you have faith, but action is also important.
Yes. Allah is not going to tie
Ngamia
your camel.
haitapotea lakini ifunge pia. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a good one, right?
Faith in Allah, but first tie your camel.
First tie your camel.
Yes.
Do you think it speaks to you?
I think it does. It speaks to Kenyans. Hapa naenda kulala katikati ya barabara na useme gari haitakanyaga. Utakanyagwa na tukuje Masiki. Uombe Mwenyezi Mungu akulinde kwa magari, lakini pia uondoke katikati ya barabara.
Yeah? It's what you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your own efforts.
Unasema tutaondoa hii serikali ama hii regime, lakini pia tafuta kura.
Because bila kura, hakuna kitu mtafanya.
Kuna kitu.
So can we say that you did not tie your camel, the ones that went into Kenya Kwanza from Jubilee?
Pengine kaba ilikuwa fupi zaidi.
You trusted in Allah.
Trusted in Allah.
You trusted in Allah. There was quite a bit of that, I must admit.
And then the camels just went.
There was a lot of believing that we, in ourselves, and that like all was done and dusted. But we are now being dusted
Properly.
kila siku. Mwaka mpya.
What lessons have you learned so far? I mean, just looking since August 2022, as a party Jubilee, going into that election as the biggest party, coming out of that election wounded. What lessons have you learned as a leader of the party?
The party must have its own structures and must rely less on other structures. Admittedly, having been the party in government, there was almost a very thin line between the structures of Jubilee and those of government. When we wanted to do something at maybe a ward level, there was always that confidence that the powers that be could call on the chief, and you expect that to happen with the government of the day. And the chief would easily answer to the questions that would otherwise have been answered by a structured party. So one of the things that we must do of necessity is to ensure that the party has structures all the way to the grassroots, and structures that answer to the party, not to any other system. And that's one of the things we've been doing for the better part of last 3-4 months, and what we would want to continue doing for the coming 2-3 months again. By end of March, we would want to have structures across the country within all the counties for our party.
What structure, basically?
Structures
Because
means that...
I'm sure if I went to the register of political parties,
Yes.
even if I came to your office,
Yes.
you'll show me a constitution,
Yes.
you'll show me very many documents that have structures for the party.
Yes, but structures that must have the human support. It is ensuring that we have a chairman at the constituency, at the county constituency and the ward level, and perhaps more, and ensuring that not just a chairman, it is a chairman with all the other officials, and where possible, open offices for them so that those who have would want to make some inquiries, they know the fixed board for that party. And of course also ensuring that we are permanently recruiting new members. What happened last year is that because of it was very difficult for a long time to clearly demarcate between Jubilee and the rebels of Jubilee who ended up being in UDA. So there are those who thought were with you, but were never with you. And this only came to be known to us after the elections. And that actually even is part of why we ended up with some pull and push within the party. Things that we are still trying to sort out, but things that now will be sorted out by the Kenyans themselves. It's no longer an issue that you want to play around with. People have come of age and they have understood some things much more clearer than it was before.
Does this mean elections? Elections? Because Jubilee has never had this.
No. To the contrary, we had our elections in the month of March 2022, which ended up with the NDC. They may not have been the elections in the campaigning that you know them, but we have officials, we have had officials in all those areas. But again, the 2022 elections completely disorganized parties, and especially Jubilee, because our main area is Mount Kenya. We are across the country, but our major block of membership comes from within Mount Kenya. And that is where also UDA did havoc on us as a party. So what I've been doing the last couple of months is to ensure that those who we are able to identify offices that are vacant, and then go through a process to ensure that we have, again, genuine leaders. And the good thing about it now is that you are picking those whom you can call diehards supporters, those who withstood the yellow fever, and those who have even withstood the enticement that have come from Karen and State House, because they are permanently available. It's like the newspapers you buy on the road as you drive. Those incentives, are permanently available. You walk to car every time. So if you see a person who has been able to withstand those kind of temptations, is a person that you can have faith that you can take on the journey that we have with him without fear, like it was before.
What's the end goal for Jubilee?
The end goal for Jubilee?
Yeah, what's the end goal for Jubilee? Because there seems like, many stops talking about the leadership of the party itself in question. Who's the leader? Who is not the leader? Who wants to be? Who doesn't want to be? All kinds of things have been happening. And if we're now saying that we're at a place whereby, according to what you're saying, there's certain streamlining or alignment that's being done, onto what end?
One is that it is not just within Jubilee. It is something that is being done by all the parties within Azimio. And any other party that is interested in being relevant in the coming months, you have to do what we are doing. You have to do what ODM is doing. But the end game for Jubilee is to ensure that this regime is home, or this outgoing regime is properly replaced. They have only 42 months left. And you had William himself saying that he was not interested in running for 2027 if he gets there. But again, you hear him, that flip-flopping tells you of people who are not confident in what they are doing and certainly doubtful of any comeback. So our end game is to ensure that there is an alternative, viable group of people who can help this country move on.
Okay.
And it is not an end game of Jubilee alone. This is something that I would want to say loudly here and also say loudly when we are with Azimio. Any of us who wants to break away and think you can do it alone, you want to give William another period to really harass Kenyans. We must be determined to move on together as a team called Azimio, or if anybody wants to come up with another name, it really doesn't matter, but I really would want us to move as a team.
Okay, I hear
and
you saying.
And when we get
in,
we also don't get to manage the country like this. We are really going through this one-man guitar. I see it with Mugithi, one-man guitar with the whole praise and worship team behind of Uda. So today Busia playing one-man guitar. Tomorrow you can't run a country that way. And Kenya is a country that we should never ever allow this to happen again. By the way, the late President Mwai Kibaki cautioned us when we were doing the new constitution. He asked us, "This kitu mnasema presidential system, Wakenya wataielewa na wanaielewa kuona viongozi wao kwa serikali." So he said, sawa, lakini mjue lazima muweke bidii kubadilisha hii. Because that time we needed a document to put Kenya together. And there are things we needed to agree on, even if they were not quite fine for the country. And one of them was the presidential system. Within Azimio, I believe that we are all agreed and now beyond that a hybrid system. I have seen a very funny one: unitary, parliamentary, semi-constitutional, monarchy. That's the one for Morocco. Certainly we don't want to get anywhere near that because I don't even understand it. But one thing that comes out of it, they have a prime minister, they have a king, they have a monarch. They are trying, I think ideally is to get everybody to feel included and owning it. And the hybrid system of government or governance is what I believe is the best for this country. In any case, when we try to say that we want a prime minister and a deputy prime minister times two, then this brigade of Kenya Kwanza, or others say Kenya Kwisha. And actually you can see Kenya is quishering. Akio is not in doubt anymore. But there is hope. We'll bring it back. They really fought the issue of prime minister and deputy prime minister only for them to come up with Musalia and try to make him prime something, And I think it's just good to own up and say these are positions that are necessary in this country for us to be able to deal with the political instability. And it is only when we have gotten political stability that then we can focus on the economic needs of this country without the noise that comes from politicians or political circles.
What I hear you saying, and I hope that it is the case,
is that William is a one-termer.
Well, that's not what I was going to say.
Okay.
That's what you've believed. My goodness. What I hear you saying is that folks who are clamoring for this end goal are actually concerned about the status of Kenyan citizens, that the clamor to get back into the political driving seat is to be able to turn things around for the country and not to reclaim positions of power for self-perpetuance.
Precisely, but also to add that this regime has, I don't think, not that we are very old, but we are certainly older than others. And I don't think I've ever come across a regime that has become so unpopular in the minds of Kenyans as is the case with this UDA. The danger with that is that many people will feel like they can just declare that they want to run for the presidency and think they can unseat William. And that is something that we must manage, many of us. One is you must manage your own, I don't want to call it greed, but there is also the ambition.
Yes, let's use ambition.
But there is ambition, but there is also some greed.
No, politicians are not
ambition.
greedy. They're just ambitious.
And there is nothing wrong with being ambitious.
No.
But we need to be careful because if we don't manage our ambitions, then we could easily allow this guy to mismanage us again, and he is good at it. And and you may think that I'm being unfair, but listen to his speech yesterday in Busia. You are standing, and you could tell that it's a trial and error. How do you end up in Busia overnight, and then you have no message? You go to this water project was done 2016. If we are going to start launching projects of 2016,
what do you mean it was done 2016?
This was secured from the ADB Bank 2016 and done in 2017 and finished. This water project, it was completed.
So that tap was installed in 2017.
Yes, and maybe he was trying to find whether it is oiled or greasing or kind of thing. That then we can excuse him. But if he has come down to the point of where he checks whether greasing has been done to this machinery, then that's how low we have sunk as a country. But it is the level of insincerity among these people. I could not believe it. If recent criticality was he was telling the people of Busia, he was talking about Bugoma while he was in Busia. And you can tell the flip-flopping because it's a trial and error. Bahati nasibu, Mwenyezi Mungu saidia leo ikwishe. That kind of thing is where we are in this country. And hata saa hii ni kuomba Mwenyezi Mungu these 42 months ikwishe haraka. Because the dilemma we were in as Azimio, which we are still in, is if you start working to get them out, we don't want to end up with a corrupt system where you have a country that is like Somalia, and we are all over trying to run. That's worse. And that is the only thing that will keep these people in power longer than a 12 hours day. But the time that a solution will be clear, I want to tell you, Kenyans are all ready. Let me tell you about Mount Kenya. They were not part of they didn't come out in the demonstrations that were there.
Yeah.
And you saw some unkind words being thrown to us by people within Azimio, like my friend Professor Makau and Robert Alai, and is it Robert Alai? Alai and others, Robert, yes. But let me tell you today, they may not have taken part in the demonstrations. They may not even take part in the demonstration that are called, but the people who will force the guy out is Mount Kenya. It's 100%, maybe not 100%, because you cannot, no politicians dies completely. But the percentage of people who have said enough is enough is beyond anything we had imagined sometimes last year.
What changed?
In Mount Kenya?
Oh, yes.
You see, Mount Kenya, they voted for these guys, and then Mount Kenya was also heavily used to leak the elections of last year. And one of the reasons why it was heavily used is because we in Jubilee also relied on structures that did not belong to the party. So when we are talking of an agent, it is an agent who has been picked by individuals whom you thought believed in you. So they ended up picking individuals who believed like them.
Essentially, you thought because they were under the banner of Jubilee, you were on the same side.
I think,
but they were not on the same side.
In fact, let me put it a little differently.
Please.
It's difficult to put it better than in the way you have put it, but because it was a Jubilee government.
It was a Jubilee government.
There was a thinking that civil servants would continue supporting the government. All they would have done what they have been requested to do, and that is ensure that agents, agents are agents who are within the party,
who'd support your quest.
Yes. And that was a terrible assumption. But this time round, this is likely to happen like it did 2002, where I tell you that in some I learned in 2007 after 2002. And by the time I was learning, it was such that even the resources that were available to some of us would not have made it possible for us to hire agents across all the polling stations. And to date, there are people who come over to me and tell me, you remember 2007, I was voting at this polling station and I was told you did not have an agent. I said I am going to be his agent. I appointed myself and ensured that your votes were not stolen. That's how it will be in Mount Kenya 2027.
People will volunteer.
I want to tell you, even if William is the Chebukati, 2027 in Mount Kenya, hizo kura hawataiba.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break.
Hawataiba.
Jeremiah KIONI is the Secretary General of Jubilee, and you're saying
And
that...
by the way, the responsibility of a Secretary General is much, much higher than those of a Member of
Member of
Parliament.
Parliament. Now you're a national leader.
And it's also good to mention here that many of us, when elected, we imagine that the party becomes inferior. And that's the mistakes I've seen many of us commit in the past, and even those now committing. The party as an institution is a very powerful institution. After 3-4 years, like now, the people are already hunting for where am I going, which party am I going to run on. When I was seated out there, I came across a gentleman who wants to vie for some position in Kiabu, and he's already hunting for a ticket. And clearly, Jubilee is the only party that will make sense in Mount Kenya.
You say
fact,
that.
Let me say something
You say that.
else.
Let me ask you the question.
If
because
you don't
you're
hear
saying...
what Uhuru says, you are done in Mount Kenya.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
You,
for those who did.
you say right now, from what you read on the ground, is that Mount Kenya, the voters are unhappy with Kenya Kwanza, with UDA that they voted for. When they were voting for UDA, they were unhappy with Jubilee. Now they're unhappy with UDA. Is Jubilee an option?
Yes.
And if it's an option, what makes it an option now?
It is
that
not
it wasn't
just a
an
better option,
yet?
but the only option in that region. It's not just a better option.
What
but
makes
the
it
only
different
option.
now?
And I'll tell you why. Unfortunately for the Hustler group, they came on a platform of lies. Yani uongo. It sounds better when you say it in English. Uongo. Kwa sababu even nursery school kids wakitembea kwa barabara, you know the way they run after saa sita wanakimbia. Saa zingine wasikia wakisema ni uongo. It's gotten that deep. And you know you can't lie to people in the manner that UDA lied, and then failed to deliver on even one of the promises that was made and survive. So there is anger. There is even embarrassment that is there within the people. And there is that fear of almost unknown. So people would not want to try something new this time round. They don't want to take chances. They had their problems with Jubilee because they were told. Today if you ask them shida ilikuwa gani, they struggle to tell you. Sababu shida ilikuwa gani? Ni barabara ilikuwa inajengwa. Wanakuambia hata kama unaweza fikia watu waambie wasaidie tu. I was over the new year I went through Mau roads. Kutembea tu huko. Na watu wakikuona fortunately by the grace of God wakiniona wanajua uzo hii ni nani. So, unaweza ukiongea waambie wajaribu wamalizie sisi mabarabara. Tractors left. So there is desperation and there is no hope. Talk about education.
They were unhappy with Jubilee for not completing Mau roads.
They were
are
not unhappy with Jubilee
for not completing Mau roads.
No. They were unhappy with Jubilee because they were told the issue of hustler versus dynasty. Hii mambo yote mnaona ikifanywa ni dynasty. Barabara unaona hii inajengwa ni ya kutoa hii miti hapa kwa hii Mount Aberdare kupeleka kwa Uhuru Northlands. Ukiona hii maji inachotwa hapa tunnel hii maji inachotwa Murang'a yote inapelekwa kwa housing estate ya Uhuru. Hii kahawa mnaona hawa ndio wanauza. Hii maziwa yote mnaona yote hii shida yenu ni ya Brookside. That is how the whole campaign packaging was done for Mount Kenya.
But why did it resonate?
It was a
it
hustler.
Resonated.
It was hustler. It was hustler versus dynasty. A crass thing that was created.
But the message was resonating because those issues were true on the ground.
The message
There were
was
true on the
resonating.
ground. The farmers had issues with the prices of their milk.
Yes.
The farmers had issues with the coffee in the market for
Yes.
coffee.
Still
Farmers had issues with coffee and tea market. Farmers had issues with macadamia and others. Farmers had issues with incomplete infrastructural projects.
And there we go. They had issues with macadamia. Macadamia, when they had an issue with it, was costing 120. Today it's 5 bob. They are trying to sell macadamia kwa masichi.
Kwa mazishi.
Yeah, during burials. Watoto wanatumwa na hizo magunia, enda uuze. So now if you don't sell, wache huko tu, usikuje naye nyumbani. Unajua ile kitu tulikuwa napiga hivi na I don't wakon banta. Banta. Yeah, Brigori. That's what they are doing with those macadamia now in Mount Kenya. When you talk about coffee,
So nothing has changed.
Everything has changed, but
Everything is getting worse.
terrible, not even worse.
It was
I want
bad
to tell
in
you about
Jubilee
coffee.
days. It is
Coffee
worse
was
in
120.
Kenya Kwanza days. I want to understand
Coffee was, let me just
how
give
somebody
you,
who sees things were bad in Jubilee days, they are not any better in Kenya Kwanza days. They are worse. I would go back to Jubilee. I just want to understand why Jubilee would be an option.
let me tell you this, and allow me just a few minutes.
Yes.
Coffee was doing 120. Now it's at 40. And the July peak is still in the warehouse. Hiyo itakuwa borea. Why? Because the people who are selling coffee, who are helping in the milling of coffee, were called cartels. And they were sold and watu wakasema torea sisi cartels. Wanasema afadhali ile cartel ilikuwa inatuuzia 120 kuliko hii maraika wametuletea 40. You talk of milk. Milk has lost 10 shillings a liter now. And Ruto has signed the agreement with the EU. One of the quarrels that he's having with the East African leaders. Because Uhuru refused to sign and told everybody, when we sign together. He signed the agreement with the EU that allows the Europeans to export milk and eggs to Kenya. So expect our cows to become maridadi tu, maua ya kuangalia. It is not that Jubilee was bad, but the narrative that you are being milked by Jubilee is what was sold. And they were told things are going to even be better. We are going to do it better.
So what you're saying, SG...
So what I'm saying is this.
Sorry,
and
because
we
if I
tried,
can
we
liken
tried
it-
to undo those lies.
So this is
And
the
it
thing.
was
and
not easy.
I'm sorry, but I have to come back to what Eric was saying. Because if some of the complaints that you hear on the ground as to the reasons why essentially they voted in the way in which they did, coupled with what you're saying, what you're now saying is that in the next position where Kenyans have an opportunity to vote, they will essentially say it was like the days of Egypt, whereby you get out into the wilderness and you say, look, can we go back to Egypt? At least there we were eating every day. That's what you're saying. That this new thing, we can't. Let's go back to the situation whereby maybe things weren't so good.
Even if
but
we
at
were in
least,
slavery.
Even if we were in slavery.
We're eating
We had 1, 2, 3. We were eating leeks and onions, or in this case, macadamia at 120 and avocado. Is what you're saying.
But you see, when you have macadamia at 120, you wanted to go to 130. So that person who had given you 120 is the only one person who has the capacity to get 130. He knew how.
What I'm saying is that do you
Tea
have,
and coffee,
is there
tea and coffee
SG?
had collapsed.
Is there SG,
Munya brought it to 120.
something that you're putting on the table today that people are going to look at and say, actually, you know what? They were here before.
Yes.
But compared to what we are seeing now, we'd rather go back to that than something else. There's got to be something better than that you offer to Kenyans.
By far.
There's got to be something better.
Yeah.
What is that thing? What is that?
Yeah, one, of course, we would want to manage the economy better, and it's being done. And the starting point is to ensure that you are living within your means. Ensure that the amount of money you are collecting is the amount of money you are spending. Don't spend more than you are collecting. That is why we now have another hole of 806 billion shillings, which we need to feed in the coming 3 years. Meaning, Zakayo itakuwa mara 3 kwenda mbele. Watu hawajafika, goja ugojee, inakuja. More taxation is on the way. The other thing is that we need to manage our affairs. All of a sudden, it is last week. Actually, it was on Saturday. The headline was Mzungu telling us what to do going forward. All of a sudden, we are now taking instructions again from the Mzungus.
Which one?
IMF is the one managing our affairs now. World Bank is the one managing us. And this is where we were with Moi. Kibaki came and turned from them and we managed ourselves. Within 3 years, we had a surplus of 1 billion shillings. Surplus in this country. Within a year. What did we do? Manage our taxes better. Collect and manage our taxes better. We will want to ensure that education is free. We were heading to make sure that the university is free. We are capable of giving university education free. We had promised 6,000 shillings per household of about 2 million families. We still are capable of doing the same today without struggle. If we can spend 2 billion shillings in the month of September, October, and November, kwa chai na mkate, State House, 2 billion shillings, which translates to 24 million shillings
Iko na siagi
a
ya
day.
mkate ama ni-
Nafikiri inapakwa siagi pamoja na jam at the same time. But that was, you have what? You have 24 million shillings a day, which translates to 1 million shillings an hour. It means you can actually still afford the edu afia, the 3,000 shillings plus for as insurance cover for all secondary school going kids. You can afford to increase the capitation that is going on, that was going from 22 shillings. Instead of dropping it to 11 shillings, which is the case now, we should be able to take it to 33 shillings. We just need to manage our wastage. But let me tell you what also happened in Mount Kenya. The quality of readers went to zero. Yes, because you have no person who can say not William. And this is why I'm saying this one-man guitar thing must be done
So
away
you're
with.
saying that the management, Mheshimiwa, you are saying that the quality by which we judge a leader is the ability to what? Offer a differing view from the president. Is that what
Not
you're saying?
necessarily. It's the ability to have a view.
So
if
you're saying
if you have a view on something, the view could be the view you have.
true.
But if you have no view, it will always be the view that you hear from another.
But let me ask the question.
And the danger that with that is that you become yes.
But
And that's where we are today.
Are you saying that none of those leaders even have a differing view in private?
If they do, we should. Why would you want to have it in private? It's like saying that you have a vision outside the vision 2030. And like others have said, if it's a vision outside the vision we know 2030, peleka nyumbani kwako. If you have a view that you only have it in private, peleka nyumbani kwako. We want views in public. It is only views that are expressed in public that will help Kenyans. And I'm saying this. If for example, we had an inclusive management, people who are of
Similar mind.
not necessarily similar mind, but people of with some impetus, if I may borrow from Amos Wako, they will not have allowed William to go to Kinangop and say that he will not obey court orders. If there was a prime minister or a deputy prime minister allowed William, he will say, Your Excellency, those who can call him so, Your Excellency, that is not what I want to say. It will take me down in my constituency because I was elected. So for that reason, allow me to disagree with you on this, and I'll do it publicly. Because I have a constituency that I answer to. But this thing of being picked and you become a CS, you answer to nobody. That's why we are talking about a hybrid, which includes members in the executive who have been elected one way or another. Okay. You cannot be seen to move around stealing, just muscling political parties and making them yours. Why? Because you have individuals who have people of impetus around you who also have a stake in the government, and they will tell you this is not useful. But why don't we talk to them about the policies that we want? But we do not want to buy and kill political multipartyism. We were celebrating Jaramogi Oginga's 30 years.
Yes.
What did he die doing? Fighting for the space for us to have this studio. Before those days, there was only one studio, KBC. Now, that space that we have, including having more people to say different things, is what is being taken away. We are slowly and quickly, slowly and surely, and drifting back to one-party state. We were there 1983. I think we are only maybe a month or two before we completely go back to where we were in 1983.
But does that then not tell us something interesting about the political class? Because the people you're speaking of, who keep being drawn into this monolith that we call UDA, they're politicians. They're not being forced. Someone who's being enticed is someone who's given an option. And that is what they've done. They've chosen that option.
And this is the bit we are doing now in Jubilee. Today, tomorrow, and the day after, I have a program where we are putting 30 women, potential leaders, to start going through some training for the coming 2-3 years. So that by the time they are being offered for
public office.
Yes, they understand what it means to be elected. So it is no longer going to be, it is also the responsibility of parties to really come up model leaders, not to be modeled by people who insult others, people who steal parties, people who have no spine, and they cannot stand for anything. Because that's where we are, mainly within Mount Kenya. And that's why we are not even bothered with some of the members we have in Jubilee. They can just let them take a walk. Let them go to UDA. What we are doing today, I can tell you, every single day, even as I go back to the office today, it is to talk to people who are potential leaders tomorrow.
So Jubilee 2.0.
And modeling them in example of some others. Others who have stood there on behalf of Kenya.
When you last here, there was a name you mentioned, Kamene.
Kamwene.
Kamwene, not Kamena. What is a Kamene?
Kamene
is a name.
Yeah.
It's someone's name.
Someone's name.
And Kamwene?
Kamwene it's a movement. It was a platform.
How is that coming along?
It's done what we wanted it to achieve.
What was it supposed to have achieved?
Awaken the people of the mountain and they had attack. And today, we never advertised it for one. Never paid a coin. We just said, Kamwene. And the community, everywhere, people are saying we are also going to form ours, we are going to form ours. We are not now there. It's just like the Mau spirit.
What's a full phrase? What's a full saying in Kamwene?
Kamwene. Can we think about ourselves? Where are we? Where are we in this whole game? Aren't we under attack? Aren't people being used to take our political party, the only political voice that we have, so that we become slaves? And it has hit home. And that's why I'm saying, even the issue of thinking that you can take Jubilee away, it's no longer an issue that you are going to be worried about it in the courts.
Okay.
Now, people will sort you out.
Can we look at
Wananchi
Jubilee?
wenyewe. Hii si kitu ya mchezo. Na wale ambao walikuwa wamecheza dance, wanacheza dance, jaribu nao hata si bali eda hapa daima hapa chini. Cheza maneno ya Jubilee naye. You'll be sorted out by people you don't know.
Let's look at Jubilee now in the context of Azimio just a little bit. And of course the talks, everything that we are seeing, there's a meeting that's been called for this week, and Azimio is looking at where it is in the whole political landscape. What happens? Because the choice of a presidential flag bearer usually is the straw that breaks a camel's back for coalitions like this. One flag bearer will be picked from one party, whether that party be dominant or not, and the whole thing falls apart. What does that portend for the coalition? Here, Jubilee is doing its robust movement to make sure that, it's, top form. ODM is doing the same. Wiper is also on the up and up. Everybody is cleaning house. What happens when you choose a flag bearer that's not everybody is happy about?
2-3 things. One is that we are drowning as a country. Without doubt. In Kikuyu, we will say Mutidu. It's like you are throwing your hands up because you are just so you can't even finish the word. Remove me. Before you finish, water is in your mouth. So it's Mutidu. So that's what we are doing as a country. Now we have heads up because we are now being taken by a big lever. And when your heads is up, whoever pulls you out of that lever is your hero. You only look at him after. If it was your enemy, then you may ask him, what are you doing around here, you idiot? If you're unkind. But the fact that the thing is that you have been rescued. The country is looking for somebody to rescue it from this disaster that we are in. So we have to put our best foot forward. Secondly, it can only be one person to be the president. If we then discuss and agree on the issue of the danger of even having one person again, we all sacrifice and give it to one person who becomes a one-man guitar. If we understand the dangers of just having one person who runs the show alone, then we'll understand why it is that we now need to think of an exclusive system, which is a hybrid. Have cabinet ministers coming from parliament. Have the deputy prime ministers, the prime ministers in the mix. It will not cost us anything new or anything more. In fact, it will be cheaper. But then you have a president who has a team around him, and he has to consult that team. There is nothing else like a one-man guitar and a praise and worship team made up of rebels of Jubilee, rebels of ODM. They actually become louder. And then you have the soprano coming from UDA. So when you move away from that kind of an arrangement, when Kenyans say this finance bill is not good, there are people who say, tumetoka kwa wananchi, let us think about this finance bill. But when you have an individual who wakes up and you can see evidence of people he has beaten overnight, and then you look like you could also be enlisted to be slapped during the meeting, Kenyans will not get anything from it. Lazima wa Kenya wawe na wanaume na akina mama ambao wanasema hapa tutaachana kwa hii maneno. That is what made the Grand Coalition government. You remember that Grand Coalition where Raila was the prime minister? And within a short while, the economy was growing at 8%. Why? Because Kibaki could not just wake up and say, Rusi, tufanye nini leo? Hakuna hiyo. Anakutana na wanaume who also have a view on everything. So you compromise and you consult on everything. That is what is important in this country. Na usidanganywe na mtu ya kwamba tukiruhusu mtu ya one man guitar with a praise and worship team, Kenya itabadilika. We want everybody around there. And that is why in Azimio, we will ensure that, I want to tell you, Azimio, when you look at the parties, even as we come to the end, when you look at the parties, you're looking at ODM and you're looking at Jubilee and you're looking at Azimio. And Jubilee is a very strong party in Azimio. ODM is a very strong party. All these, Wiper is also there, very strong. All these units, and even Kenya and the other parties are there. It is to ensure that Azimio survives, not because of the individuals, but for the good of this nation.
Jeremiah KIONI, thank you for joining us today.
Nashukuru pia, asante sana.
KIONI is the Secretary General of Jubilee Party. He says they are on the ground, they're reviving the party, Jubilee 2.0. We'll wait and see.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.